Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone.
Can I ask you something personal? When was the last time you did something just for you? Not for your kids. Not for your grandchildren. Not to keep the peace at the dinner table. Not to make someone else comfortable, just for you? If you had to think about that for more than a few seconds, this video is for you. Because somewhere along the way, maybe in your 30s, maybe in your 40s, maybe over decades of being everything to everyone, you started disappearing. Not all at once. Slowly. Quietly. The way a candle burns down. You kept giving light, and nobody noticed how small the flame was getting. And now you're here, maybe 60. Maybe 65. Maybe looking at 70 and wondering, is this it? Is the best part really behind me? I want to look you in the eye right now and tell you, no, it is not. In fact, I believe, and the psychology supports this, that what's ahead of you might be the most authentic, most powerful, most free season of your entire life. But only if you understand what's actually happening to you right now. You are not a woman who has done nothing. You are a woman who has survived things that would have broken other people. You've sat in hospital waiting rooms. You've buried people you loved. You've held families together with your bare hands during storms that no one else even knew were happening. You've smiled at Christmas dinners when your heart was cracking. You've been strong when being strong was the only option on the table. You have wisdom in you that took decades to build. Real wisdom. The kind you can't read in a book. The kind that comes from living through loss and choosing to get up anyway. And yet, right now, something feels off. Doesn't it? Maybe the house is quieter than it used to be. Maybe a relationship you expected to carry you into this chapter didn't. Maybe you look in the mirror and don't quite recognize the woman looking back. Not because she's old, but because somewhere along the way, you stopped asking her what she wanted. Maybe you've been told, directly or indirectly, that this stage of life is about slowing down, about stepping back, about making room for the younger generation. And part of you believed it. Here's what I want you to hear today. That story is wrong. And the fact that you're watching this tells me part of you already knows it. There's a concept in psychology called the false self. From the time we are little girls, most of us learn to build one. We learn what kind of woman gets approved of, gets loved, gets chosen, and we shape ourselves around that. We become the good daughter, the patient wife, the selfless mother, the dependable colleague. We wear these identities like clothes. And after a while, we forget they're not actually us. Psychologist Carl Jung called the second half of life, the years after roughly 40, the time for individuation. It's when the soul starts asking a very dangerous and very important question. Who am I when I'm not performing for anyone? Now here's why this feels so painful at 60 rather than exciting, because the roles that once defined you start to shift. Children leave, careers end, marriages change shape, parents pass on, and suddenly, without those roles to hide behind, you're standing in a kind of open field. And open fields are uncomfortable if you've spent your whole life in a crowded room. The loneliness many women feel at this age isn't actually loneliness in the traditional sense. It's the disorientation of becoming. Think of a caterpillar in a cocoon. Inside that cocoon, the caterpillar doesn't slowly grow wings. Do you know what actually happens? It completely dissolves. It turns to liquid. Everything it was breaks down before something new forms. That's not death. That's transformation. But from the inside, it feels exactly like dying. If you are in that dissolving place right now, that quiet, unsettling place where the old version of you no longer fits, but the new one hasn't fully arrived yet. Please hear this. You are not falling apart. You are changing form. Let me tell you about a woman. I'll call her Margaret. Margaret was 62 when she retired from her job as a school administrator. For 30 years, she'd been the one people called. The organizer, the problem solver, the one who always showed up. And when she retired, a strange thing happened. The phone stopped ringing. The women she'd had lunch with for a decade drifted away. Invitations stopped coming. And Margaret sat in her kitchen, confused and hurt, asking herself, was none of it real? Here's what I told her, and what I want to tell you. There are 3 kinds of people in our lives, and most of us don't learn to tell them apart until midlife. There are people of reason. They're in your life for a specific purpose, a shared role, a shared season. When the season ends, they go, and that's okay. There are people of season. They walk with you through a particular chapter. They matter. They're real. But they're not forever. And then there are people of lifetime, the ones who aren't there because of what you do or what you provide, but because of who you are. What happens after 60 is that life very kindly, if a little brutally, does the sorting for you. The connections that were built on utility, on what you could give, on the role you played, naturally fade. And yes, that hurts. It's supposed to hurt. Grief is the correct response to loss. But what you're left with, the ones who stayed, those are your people. Those are the real ones. And there is a psychological phenomenon called post-traumatic growth. The idea that after loss and disorientation, people often discover a clarity about what matters that they simply could not access before. The noise has to clear before you can hear the signal. The signal, for many women at this age, is this: I want connection that is real. I want to stop performing. I want to be known. That desire is not weakness. That desire is wisdom. Here is something almost nobody talks about when they talk about women over 60. Your body has been carrying a level of chronic stress that most people would never understand. Think about the mental load you've managed for the last 30 or 40 years. The appointments, the schedules, the emotional temperature of every room you walked into. Knowing when the milk was running low, when your child was struggling even though they said they were fine, when your husband needed space, when your mother needed more. Psychologists have a name for this invisible labor: cognitive and emotional load. And research consistently shows that women carry a disproportionately heavy version of it. What does chronic stress do to a body over decades? It keeps the nervous system in something called a hypervigilant state, always scanning, always anticipating, always ready to respond. And then one day, the children are grown. The career is done. The biggest demands start to slow, and instead of feeling peaceful, you feel strange, anxious, unmoored. Why? Because your nervous system doesn't know how to turn off. It's been running at high alert for so long that stillness feels dangerous. This is not a character flaw. This is biology. This is what happens when a highly capable, highly attuned human being has been operating in overdrive for too long. The restlessness you feel, that inability to just sit, is your nervous system looking for the emergency it's been trained to find. So what do? You give it new experiences to attach to. Small ones. A morning walk with no destination. A book that has nothing to do with being useful. A conversation with someone who makes you laugh until your stomach hurts. You teach your body slowly and gently that peace is safe. Because here's the truth: rest is not laziness. For you, rest is revolutionary. You have spent a lifetime pouring out, receiving. Whether it's rest, pleasure, friendship, or joy, is not something to feel guilty about. It is something you have earned. Society has sold us a terrible lie. The lie is that reinvention belongs to the young, that new chapters are for people in their 20s and 30s, that at 60 or 65, your story is mostly written. I want to tell you about a woman named Vera Wang. She didn't design her first wedding dress until she was 40. Before that, she was a figure skater and then a fashion editor. Most people in that industry would have told her she was too old to start. Or consider Julia Child, who published her first cookbook at 49 and didn't become a household name until her 50s and 60s. Or Grandma Moses, the American folk artist who didn't begin painting until she was 78. 78. These are not exceptions. These are examples of what psychologists call the wisdom effect. The idea that experience, emotional regulation, and pattern recognition qualities that only come with age, actually make creative and personal reinvention more powerful after 60, not less. Young people reinvent from hunger, from ambition, from the need to prove something. You reinvent from knowing. You know what matters. You know what doesn't. You've stopped caring about impressing people you don't respect. You have a level of self-awareness that most 30-year-olds are still decades away from. That is not a small thing. That is everything. The question isn't whether it's too late to start something new. The question is, what has been waiting inside you quietly, patiently, all these years? The painting you always meant to try. The trip you always said you'd take. The business idea, the book, the garden, the language, the friendship you haven't let yourself prioritize. None of those things expired. They waited. And they're still there. This is perhaps the most important distinction I can offer you today. Loneliness is the pain of feeling unseen, disconnected, unwanted. It's the ache of being in a room full of people and still feeling alone. It is a wound. Solitude is something else entirely. Solitude is chosen. Solitude is the sacred space where you finally get to hear your own voice again. The one that's been drowned out by everyone else's needs for years. Psychologist Esther Buchholz wrote that solitude is not the opposite of connection. It is actually the foundation of it. You cannot truly connect with others if you have never learned to be comfortable with yourself. Many women at this age have never, in their entire adult lives, had permission to simply be, to sit with their own thoughts, to find out what they find funny, what they find beautiful, what they believe when nobody is there to argue with them. And now, for perhaps the first time, you have that chance. I know that sounds frightening if what you're feeling right now is isolation. I'm not minimizing that. Isolation is real and it matters and it needs to be addressed. But what I'm asking you to consider is this: what if some of the quiet that surrounds you right now is not punishment? What if it is invitation? An invitation to finally, for the first time, get to know the woman you actually are. Not the woman your mother raised you to be. Not the woman your husband or children or colleagues needed you to be. You. The real one. The one underneath all the roles. She is in there. She has been waiting a very long time. And she is, I promise you, worth meeting. I want to leave you with this. There is a Japanese concept called ikigai. It means, roughly, the reason you get up in the morning. Your reason for being, not your job, not your role, your reason. Research on communities with the longest living, happiest people in the world, the so-called blue zones, consistently shows something remarkable. The people who thrive deepest into old age are not the ones who retired and sat down. They are the ones who remained purposeful, connected, curious. And here's what's beautiful about where you are right now. You are old enough to know what you don't want, and young enough to build what you do. You have survived grief that would have swallowed other people whole. You have the emotional intelligence that only comes from decades of real human experience. You have the beautiful, hard-won ability to see through what doesn't matter and hold on to what does. You are not at the end of something. You are at the beginning of the truest version of yourself. The loneliness some women feel at this age, and I say this with all the tenderness I have, is often the loneliness of having lived too long for other people and not yet having given yourself permission to live for yourself. So today, I am giving you that permission. Not that you need it from me, but sometimes we need to hear it from somewhere outside our own heads. You are allowed to want things. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to start over. You are allowed to be happy, not someday, not when things settle. Now. You have spent a lifetime being someone's anchor. It is time to let yourself sail. Before I go, I want to ask you to do one small thing. In the comments below, I want you to write 3 words: I am free. Not because the algorithm likes it, though it does help this video reach more women who need to hear it, but because there is something powerful about saying it out loud. Even in text, even to strangers. Psychologists call it behavioral activation. The idea that small acts of declaration begin to rewire the way we think about ourselves. So write it for yourself, not for me. I am free. And if this video touched something in you, if it reached a part of you that needed to be seen today, please share it with one woman in your life who might need to hear it too. Because somewhere out there, a woman is sitting alone wondering if the best of her life is over. Let's make sure she knows the truth. Subscribe if you want more honest, real conversations about life, healing, and what it means to truly flourish in the second half of life. I'll be here every week, and I'm very glad you're here too.